Welcome to the No Quit Living podcast. Our primary objective is to motivate and inspire our listeners to never quit. The reality of life is simple. We all fall. We all fail. At times, we get knocked down. The question is, do we get back up? Are we stronger? Are we better prepared to attain the maximum of our potential? Thank you for joining our No Quit tribe. As you go for your greatness today, never quit. And remember, we rise by lifting others up. Welcome to episode number 336 of the No Quit Living podcast. I'm your host, Christopher J. Worth, and today's theme of the day is Aim Small, Miss Small. Our quote of the day comes to us from W. Clement Stone. Aim for the moon. If you miss, you may hit a star. As many of you know, back in August of 2020, the book The Positivity Tribe was released, and now it is available both in hard copy as well as paperback. So make sure you grab a copy or two and help us spread some positivity. I was first introduced to our guest today through one of his YouTube videos. His story is absolutely incredible, but the words he used in that video inspired me, and I knew that I had to get him on the podcast. Nathan Harmon is quite a guy, and I know you will enjoy today's episode. Nathan, I'd like to welcome you to the No Quit Living podcast.
Hey, man, it's good to be here.
I appreciate it. The first question I ask everybody is, are you ready to positively impact at least one person today?
Yeah, for sure, man. I think I'd love this to hopefully, if I can say anything, I always believe that your story, your words are somebody else's miracle. So let's see if we can't create something here with our content that gives somebody that attitude not to quit, you know?
I love it. You have quite an incredible story of no quit and perseverance, and I wanted to ask if you wouldn't mind briefly sharing that with our listeners today.
Yeah. So, in short, it was just, a life of brokenness and broken family when I was in 12, 13 years old. It went from everything being perfect that I thought on the surface to everything getting ripped away from me very quickly. And from ages 12 to 23, I just went ripping and running, looking to I always say external factors to find eternal worth. And I feel like that's what I was the leader of that in my generation, in my space, right? I was looking to every external thing to try to find real worth and value, trying to fill voids, making poor choices, operating from my wounds. I always say it this way, that a lot of us, we long for community. We all want to have connection, every person, but we go through trauma sometimes and we create this place of protection and we don't let anybody in. And then when you start to isolate, it's never good. So for me, from 13 to 23, that was my journey. I got involved with tremendous substance abuse and alcoholism, battling suicidal ideologies, eating disorders, just literally a young kid that just didn't have a lot of direction. And the addiction really overwhelmed me because I was so focused on not becoming like my father. There's a lot of bitterness that I always say this: what you feed grows and what you starve dies. And I was so focused on not becoming like my father, I became pretty close to him because I was still giving that issue time and attention. And whatever you feed with your thoughts, even if it's what you're trying to get away from, sometimes you don't break free of it. So that ended up being really hit rock bottom. At 23 years old, I was involved in a terrible accident, drinking, and my passenger came to get me to be my designated driver on July 17th. And by the time she got to get me, she was my designated driver. But when we left, I got the keys somehow, and we hit a tree, and then everything really changed quickly. Priscilla Owens on July 18th, 17th passed away at the decisions of me to drink and drive that night. And her family, 3 days after the wreck, forgave me. And which was just another whole crazy story, which would take up a whole other episode of this family forgiving me when most probably wouldn't. And they just asked me to do two things: and not to let Priscilla Owens pass away for nothing, and try to make the world a better place. And so that was a charge that hit me on a level that just was hard to even wrap my mind around, why they were choosing to pick forgiveness and love over hate. But Indiana didn't forgive me. Choices have consequences, and I totally understand that. And so I was sentenced to 15 years incarcerated at 23 years old in 2009. And I just looked in the mirror. When I went to prison, I had a moment. I think a lot of times we think that we're a product of our environment, we're a product of our circumstances. But what I've realized that we're never a product of our environment. You're always a product of what you do in the middle of your environment. Because the truth is, all of our circumstances, no matter where we come fiscally, culturally, where we come from, our statuses of life, we all get dealt a different deck of cards. But to win the hand's kind of the same, regardless of what your truth is, your sphere, your struggle. There are some really healthy habits that, no matter what you're going through, can bring you out where you don't quit. So for me, it was really just getting to a place that saying, you know what, I'm not a product of my circumstance. I'm going to be a product of what I do in the middle of my storm. And if I could create a why that's bigger than the storms, that it becomes an anchor. And so when I wrote these words, change the world, and I slapped them on my little mirror, my little prison cell, and I just believed that I could begin to radically change the world, but I had to look in the mirror and realize what I had been doing in the past wasn't working. And so it was this radical journey to undo a lot of terrible habits and rhythms, and things that I had developed. And I started living my life with these 5 principles: transparency, accountability, hard work, good choices, and valuing people. They govern my life daily. And a quote that you and I had talked about a little bit off the air was, it's something I live my life: aim small, miss small. And it literally is just the idea that one good choice, just do the next right thing. There's never a wrong day to do what's right. Do one choice, one step, one moment, one breath, and that will grow. What you focus on will grow. What you feed gets bigger. So that was my journey. 2010, I started that pursuit. And when you do what's right, when you make a decision to not focus on your past, not be caught up so much of where you are, but just really take steps towards your future. Start feeding what you want to become, no matter what others have thought about you, no matter where you've been through in life. You just keep doing the next right thing. And I really believe that good choices will always create opportunities for us to win. Do the right thing, and there's always going to be an opportunity for that thing that you're striving to get a chance. And so that's what we began doing in 2010. I got released 11 years early. In 2013, I came home and started reaching out to community members and anywhere that would let me go and share. And it just kind of snowballed from there. So that's been a quick version of that, that no quit. It's just realizing that as long as you're breathing, there's hope, and you do control the destiny. Your life's a canvas, your life's a mosaic. And talk is cheap, but what you apply and what you do is what's going to define you. And stopping focusing on what you're trying to not become. So many of us stay stuck in so many destructive habits and rhythms because we're so focused on not becoming them anymore or stopping them. What you feed grows. You got to get to a place where, listen, you've got a negative habit, start focusing on positive stuff. The negative habit's going to fall away because you won't have time for it. So yeah, that's a quick version, my friend.
Well, there's so much in there, and I first off have to just say that I appreciate you touching on that. There's so much within that, but one of the things I think you said 3 or 4 times is what you feed grows, and I think going back to what you also said, I believe 2 times, is you'll keep doing the next right thing. I think in general, we all focus on what didn't go well or what we messed up on last week, last year in sports, the prior game. And I don't in any way want to say you just dismiss it and don't care about it, don't try to change it. But I think there's a 0 to 100 somewhere in there of, well, let me just focus on what didn't go well. Let me just continue to focus on it. And it goes into that concept of what you feed grows. But if I could dissect or have you dissect one thing, that concept before we went on the air is aim small, miss small. I think that is 4 simple words, but just incredibly powerful. And it's something that I believe in, is that we were not meant to be average. Nobody is meant to just get by. And I wanted to ask if you wouldn't mind just briefly touching on the aim small, miss small concept.
Well, for me, it comes with an idea of, well, I heard that a long time ago when I was, in my stupidity of terrible decisions from my youth. At 18, I got kicked out of school. I developed a terrible habit of just substance abuse. So I found myself going to the military, not because I wanted to per se, but I had nowhere else to turn. And that's a whole other story in its journey that it didn't end well. It ended with an other than honorable discharge. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good. I just couldn't break my drug addiction still in there. But what I heard when I was training with my weapon, um, during getting qualified as for our position of being in the military, they'd always say aim small, miss small, and it was when we were targeting, you know, if you make small corrections or small movements, it's not going to move much. And when you're trying to hit center mass and the practicing and getting qualified. And so when all of that happened in my journey and I hit really rock bottom and my choices affected another family and just so many stories, that's always stuck with me because the truth is this: if you aim small, you're going to miss small. And basically, it is when I wrote the words change the world, right? I didn't know what that was going to look like. I just knew that I was going to begin to try to hopefully impact people. And so every single day, if I would just do the next right thing and make the next right choice, and just continue to try to, it's like you're chopping a tree down. If you chop a tree down, you're not going to chop the tree down by just hitting everywhere on the tree. You keep hitting the same spots over and over again, and eventually the tree is going to fall down. See, for me, I tell people to aim for the stars, right? And you know what? Let's be real. Some of our dreams and our goals, maybe we won't be physically, financially. Maybe there will be a limitation that's above and beyond our ability. But I believe this: that if you're shooting for the stars, you're going to make it to space, and you may land on the moon, and you're still in space. And so, if you aim small, you're going to miss small. And I tell young athletes, listen, guys, you may not ever make it to the league, right? There's a good possibility that in this room, maybe 1/10 of you are going to make it. But if you're passionate about this and you're willing to apply yourself and to keep going and refuse to fail, you may not make it on the court as a player, but you may find yourself positioned to be a general manager one day and taking the shots. You may find yourself coaching into a play. You still will find yourself in the arena of what you're passionate about. And so if you aim small, you will miss small. And I always say, man, you may shoot for the stars, but you only may land on the moon, but you're still in space. Is there that much to be unsatisfied with? You're in freaking orbit, right? So aim small, miss small really comes from that. And it's just, we get so caught up in this microwave generation of now. It takes time and it takes consistency, and it takes that personal discipline that every day to say, I'm going to make choices that brings it closer and don't push it farther away. And when you make a mistake, you correct it. But that's why every great athlete, every great musician, every great in anything, they have really short memory. You know what? I just went 0 for 15 yesterday on the court. I just threw 3 interceptions, last 3 drives. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to rip that ball right back down. I'm going to trust the process, and I'm going to forget, because at the end of the day, you've got to be willing just to keep striving and going and not worry about the failures and mistakes. Again, we learn from them. We don't just keep doing the same things over again. That's insanity. But so that's the whole aim small, miss small that has worked well in my space, because I tell you, I look around of what I've had the opportunities to do and to achieve, and over these last 6 years, I was never, be honest, I wasn't endorsed by any organization. There was no ever a big backing. I didn't even get the degrees behind my name. I just had a heart and a passion to believe that, so whatever I put my hands to focus on, that we just keep going and have the belief in the goal, and not looking for the instant gratification. It's a process, right? So that's my 2 cents on the aim small, miss small.
No, and I appreciate you expanding on that. I love that perspective of athletes have the shortest memories, and the way I take that is, it's not that you don't address them or acknowledge them, but it's you don't focus on, as you said, over 15 yesterday. You don't focus on the fact that you threw interceptions. It doesn't mean you don't care, and it doesn't mean obviously that you're happy about them, but it means that today's a different day, and stop focusing on, going back to what you said, what you feed grows. So if you're only focusing on just the interceptions or just the missed shots, the reality is next time you have a shot or next time you have the ball in your hand, all you're going to be thinking about is, well, my last 3 passes were interceptions. So I'm glad you expand on that. An interesting question we ask each guest is, if you had to define yourself, but you could only pick one word, what word would you choose?
Ooh. Um, Passionate. Uh, that or squirrel. I mean, squirrel, because I always tell people that I'm almost positive that I'm ADD. I've never actually went and got tested, but I'm somewhere there. But I always feel like it was the greatest blessing that I ever gotten, because man, my mind goes a million. I'm able to get a lot done because I'm everywhere, but I'm passionate about all of them. So
I think the same goes for me. As I think if I got tested, I think my parents would say, "All right, that explains a lot when you were in middle school and high school." Because I was one of those like, "Oh, look, a pretty girl. Oh, it's a test." Um, so I know you know the quote you've heard of. You are the average of the five people you spend the most time with. If I could grant you dinner with any five people, dead or alive, and you could level up with them, who would you pick?
man, you're right. You're hitting me with questions that I haven't ever been answered. Oh man, woo. I would want to probably spend time with Jesus, being honest. He would be on my list, the greatest teacher to me. I would probably then say, this is another wild one. Not a wild one, but I think I would love to spend time with Clark, the explorers that went west, those people. I would want to spend time modern day today. I think it would be cool to spend a day with Martin Luther King Jr., just to be able to really understand his space, his mind, his journey. Um, Another one that I had watched, that document, the movie that had came out about Edison and the light bulb, right? But I would like to spend a day with Tesla, like the original Nikola Tesla, to ask questions with him, because he was ahead of his time, I believe. We're seeing it right now, a lot of his ideas that are coming to fruition. So I got Wilson and Clark, I got Jesus, I got Tesla. Um, I think my wife, I got to put my wife in there. I'm not going to leave that one off the old list. And man, probably Shakespeare.
Hmm.
Yeah, I there's that's probably one of the most interesting lists, but probably the reason for Shakespeare, I would say, and like Tesla or Nikola Tesla and Shakespeare. I've always thought when I do these talks, and I don't just communicate. I don't want to give lectures or keynotes. I want to create an experience, and so there's a lot of rhythms and speed variance. And when I talk, it almost, some people will like, it almost is like it's like this spoken word, but it's not. I'm just passionate, and I always want to give people an experience, so you feel involved. So, anyways, it's a weird list, but it's mine.
No, I love you. You own it. It's each person's list, and I can honestly say it's been a fun question that we've tweaked a little bit over time, because obviously there's no right or wrong answer. But the other interesting perspective too is your list and my list right now today is probably very different than 2 years ago, and it's going to be very different than 1 or 2 or 3 years from now, which is why I love asking that. We also break down the importance of books, and I'm curious if you've read something recently, or perhaps you're currently reading something that you'd like to recommend to our listeners.
Oh man, um, I would say that I've been so consumed with writing a book right now that I haven't read a book lately. Let me think here, and because I'm trying to make it fresh and not it's a whole other story about this book that I've been writing. I'll tell you what, there's no shortcuts in life. But anyways, biggest life is writing a book. My ADD brain. Um, The 360-Degree Leader is a book from John Maxwell that I thoroughly enjoyed reading, and I think is a really good book. It's big, so it'd be great if they had a smaller, quicker. But it's that whole idea that no matter where you are in life, that you're a leader and you can lead from behind, and that your personality, and you can be really effective and contagious to people. And so, learning to be a 360-degree leader by John Maxwell, I believe, is a phenomenal book for people who are really serious about wanting to lead an organization or leading a charge, or just even being the best them wherever like life has cast them at. So because you're a leader no matter where you are, it's not a positional thing. It is, but it's not. And when it comes to certain things, that you can be super effective as not having quote unquote the name, the title, or the authority, but just being somebody who is contagious to create the atmosphere which you want to be a part of.
No, I think John writes some amazing stuff, and I think what I love about his work is it's generational, and it doesn't matter if you're 60 years old or if you're 15 years old. You can always pull out different nuggets from him. We're going to switch over to what we call our hot seat questions, and the only request we have of you is you spit out the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Last meal, you can choose absolutely anything. What do you pick?
Man, first thing that comes to mind, it was chicken something, probably like Parmesan chicken.
Favorite smell?
That was the first smell that came to my mind was gasoline, but I don't know if it's my favorite smell, but it was the first one that came to my mind.
What is your favorite sport?
Soccer.
Do you have an all-time favorite team?
I was a very passionate U.S. Olympic World Cup team when I was growing up. Try to see them ever win the World Cup. They broke my heart so many times. But I would say, truthfully, I was a Colt fan growing up in football because of Peyton Manning, and then I just followed Peyton Manning because I was raised in Indiana. So I feel like the Colts were one of my all-time favorite teams right growing up. I really enjoy Stephen Curry and the Warriors, even through the struggles. I've always been kind of before even Steph did what he did. I enjoyed the Warriors just because of the name, the Warriors, right? So, yeah.
What is your all-time favorite movie?
Oh man, probably The Newsies or Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. That could be recency bias because my kids just watched it last night. And I was like, oh my gosh, it was my favorite movie ever. But probably the original one that when they came out, that whole series was when I was a kid. I've always been. I love when my son watches like those series. So,
what is your favorite app you have on your phone?
oh man, I use my notes a lot. Maybe it's my favorite. I feel like the notes app. I have a Bible app that I use a lot. That's really effective for me. But I also, I'll say my notes app because I'm able to jot down a lot of memories. Things.
My notes app has like thousands and thousands of entries in it. What is the background picture on your phone?
The background picture on my phone is the original stock nothing. It's just it's nothing.
I love it. Do you have an all-time favorite quote?
Yeah, it's the one my dad gave me when I was a kid. If there's breath in your lungs, there's hope in your heart. As long as you're breathing, there's still hope. You know, if you're breath in your lungs, there's hope in your heart, man. It's never over till it's over. But that's my favorite quote. Yep.
I love it. And what is that song that no matter when you hear it, where you are, you just automatically turn up the music and rock to it?
I am a big NF artist, a fan. He's a hip hop singer, but he's very clean. I love it. He doesn't even swear. He's branded himself that way. And he talks a lot about mental health, substance abuse, overcoming hardships, challenges. He's kind of his ascension had kind of happened at the same time that I started getting some success as a communicator. And we're very similar. I always say if I was a rapper, I'd sound like him. And I believe if he was a communicator, he would sound like me. But there's a song called Dreams that he has that every time I hear it, and it's probably ingrained because I play that song before every talk when I'm speaking. So I hear it all the time. So it just gets me in that place.
That's awesome. And maybe a difficult question, but for somebody that's listening right now, that's having a challenge in their life, whether it's personal, professional, just, they have that question themselves. Is there one piece of advice you'd give them to just keep going today?
Yeah, I would say skydive that thing. And here's what I mean by that. You've got to skydive it. It's a term that I use that means to me, there's a difference between success, excitement. So fear and excitement are very similar. When you're afraid of something or it can be paralyzing, but when you're excited and you're overwhelmed, like there literally is just a consciousness of your palms get sweaty, your heartbeats get going. The adrenaline's the exact same, but it's just how you're perceiving it with fear or excitement or adventure. Very similar. When you're terrified, the same thing is going to happen when your adrenaline's pumping because you're getting ready to do something that you've always wanted to do. So I always tell people you have to skydive it. What I mean by that is there was a bucket list thing that I always wanted to achieve, which was skydiving. I always wanted to, But as I got older and now I'm a husband with children, I didn't know jumping out of a plane would be the most responsible thing that I should do. I have responsibilities if the worst case scenario would happen. But I was in Portland, Oregon, getting the opportunity to speak out there. The day got done early. I was bored. I was going to go zip lining. The zip line course was closed. I called my wife, said, "Hey, honey, they have a thing called Skydive Oregon. Maybe?" "Nah, I'm just kidding." She said yes. I don't think she meant it, but she said yes. And I think that she was going to try to control me. So I hung up, was like, dude, she said yes. So I started going through the process of skydiving. Uh, the instructor came, showed me how to fall. The small plane lands. I've always wanted to do this, but in the process of going through this accomplishment, I was terrified. There were so many emotions of this. Actually, I'm about to jump out of a plane. He had jumped 7 times before. Are you good on the 8th chute? You've packed all the chutes. The math would say if one chute wasn't going to open, it would be this chute. I mean, all these things. We get to the edge, and on that threshold of being in the plane at 10,000 feet, he was like, I want you to hang out there and just experience this because it's only going to last for 10 seconds. So we're hooked up tandem, and he holds the cargo doors and has me like hanging, and I'm terrified. But as soon as I crossed the threshold, man, I was on top of the world. And I realized that for so many of us, the change that you want, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be terrifying at times. It's going to be fearful. But I've learned that terrifying and fearful is the exact same feelings of excitement, adventure, the unknown. And so I've learned that you just got to skydive it. You've got to take the step across the threshold. It won't be easy. You're going to have hard days. People are going to let you down. People are going to hurt you. People are going to do you wrong. That's okay. You've let people down and hurt people probably too. You can't be offended. You just got to continue to do the next best thing. Never give up. And you got to skydive it. And I know for some of us, I'm asking you to change, to let go of some weighty matters. I mean, we all come from a different space. Our truth though, and our struggles there, but the process is the same. You got to skydive it. So that's what I would tell them.
Dude, I love that. And for listeners who want to follow you, find out more about you, connect with you, what's the best way for them to do so?
Yeah, so there's 2 websites. There's yourlifespeaks.org, and then there's also nathanharmon.org. Those are the 2 areas. You can also go to wildernessdrivenfamily.org. My wife and I, since COVID, we've sold everything. We live in a tour bus, a coach, and we travel the country as a family unit now. That's how we've changed our life, doing life as a core unit. But Your Life Speaks or Nathan Harmon on all social medias, on YouTube. You type in either of those, it will get you to bunches of our content and just everything that we're in the middle of doing right now. Just trying to continue to add value and experience life. We weren't meant to exist. All of us were meant to experience life. Too often we settle for just existing and going through the motions. You were born for greatness. So,
I love that. I agree with that. And then last question we ask everybody is if you have any parting words you'd like to leave with our listeners today.
Just don't give up. We're in a very challenging time in humanity. And what I mean by that is regardless of where we are with, pandemics and things of being not normal, we're all experiencing something that we've never went through before, predating 2020 and 2021 and this pandemic stuff. We've never had this technological advancement in the history of mankind. We're all on the front edge of this. We've never had a parent with technology the way we have. We've never had to be coworkers. We've never had to be children. We've never had to be doctors, teachers. And we haven't understood exactly, how to use this tool the best yet. We're figuring it out, and we're going to figure it out. But in that, just because the world's at our fingertips now, and I think it's amazing. I feel like it's going to be the most beneficial. This generation of people, we're going to probably shape mankind in a way that the history books will write about this period of time. And the challenge is critical thinking is under attack. It's not even intentional, but because of how much stuff's at our fingertips, I always say the thing that makes humanity different than anything else in the animal kingdom, why we're different, why we are the top of the food chain, you could say, is because we have the ability to critical think. We figure stuff out. We're resilient, our comprehension. And unfortunately, this technological advancement, we're navigating how to work the best through it. But the thing that has been a side effect that hasn't even been intentional has been our ability to reason and to be a critical thinker. And I feel like that's why for so many of us, we're settling for mediocrity, and we're not experiencing what we were born to achieve, because we live vicariously through so many other people instead of just realizing that you are a critical thinker, you figure stuff out. And so I would just hope to give everybody hope. This other thing with the world being at our fingertips at such a young age, just because there's so much information at our fingertips, that doesn't mean that we are emotionally stable enough to navigate everything that we're learning. And so it's really attacked social and emotional, not just in youth, but in adults. We're all figuring out how to live life with a new tool called technology when it comes to just the information age. I always think it's like the industrial age. When cars were started, nobody would say cars were a bad idea. They changed the world. We could go from the east to west, north to south. Transportation was life-changing. But when cars started getting faster, they realized that there was some unfortunate ramifications of deaths were happening because they needed seatbelts. And so it took time to realize what we needed to help navigate that vehicle better. I feel like technology is the same way right now. We're realizing this is good, but now it's going faster, and we got to realize the proper mechanism so we can still live healthy up here. So hope some of that rambling made sense.
No, it definitely made sense. And for our listeners, please definitely connect with Nathan. And if you have not seen any of his videos on YouTube, I highly recommend them. And I just have to say thank you for your time today, and I hope that you and I can chat again soon.
Yeah, man. Anytime you get a hold of me, we'd love to jump on here and do this, man. This was a great stuff, man. I appreciate what you're doing. Continue just to, man, lead out front like you are, and inspiring people just to have that no quit mentality. We need that more than ever. We need to know that resiliency and commitment and just giving up is not an option.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you, brother.
All right, brother.
Thank you for listening to episode number 336. I really enjoyed speaking with Nathan. He touched upon some really powerful things today. What you feed grows. Skydive that thing, and keep doing the next right thing. Our theme of the day today was aim small, miss small. And with that in mind, I would like to personally challenge each and every one of you to no longer aim small in any area of your life. I know it may sound cliche to quote unquote shoot for the stars, but I honestly and truly believe that we all have greatness within us. The only question is if we are willing to work for it. And remember, we rise by lifting others up. And lastly, to our listeners, thank you. We truly appreciate your time, and we hope our episodes inspire you to keep on attacking life and never giving up. To quote Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, it's always too early to quit.